Hi there, it's Karen from Vintage Style Journals. Right, because of our last little boo-boo, we created the rose here very quickly, as you saw in the last video. And this is my painted over page. There's a little bit of writing coming through the background because I actually put gesso underneath it over top of the boo-boo stamp. And then I've put the vellum colour and then a little bit of permanent alizarin, just a bit of a washy colour, just to add a little bit of interest of colour to the vellum. Wonderful background colour here. You know, you can use it with most palette colours and it'll work out quite well because it's a pretty neutral tone. So what I'm going to try to do again today, and I've changed my mind a little bit about how I'm going to do the stamp here, but I just want to do the general idea of the mask, which I showed you, and I've still left some colour on it so that you can see. This goes over the writing. Once I actually put it down, it will actually go over as a mask, and I'll show you that in a minute. And I've also decided to go with a different idea. Instead of doing the black permanent colour on it from the just the archival waterproofing, I'm going to go with the Stampin' Up ink that I have here, and it's soft suede. I love these inks because they do stay quite wet for a little while. So I'm just going to try something different, and the reason why I'm going to use this particular stamp is because it stays wet for a little while, and then I'm actually going to put some chestnut opaque embossing powder over the top of it and emboss the stamp area. And yeah, without sort of telling you everything that I'm going to do in advance, I might just start doing it. So I'm hoping that this time the stamp is going to be a little bit more successful for me. I've decided I'm going to use the smaller rose stamp here from the IOD stamping range, and this is the Rose Toile, but it's one of the smaller versions of the stamp that I showed you last time. I'm going to just place this here, and I'm not going to worry too much about the overlap. And you'll see what I'm going to do in a minute. I'll just make sure I get the rose up the right way. I think it'll go up better that way. Yeah, I think that'll be better. So I'm going to place this probably about here, and I'm not going to worry here if, because of the ridge here, I'm feeling that I'm probably not going to get an ideal stamp there anyway. So I'm just going to stamp that section there after I put the original design, and I'm thinking I might just put it here on this side. So we'll have a go at it, see what it turns out like. Ultimately, if I mess it up again, well, I don't know what I'm going to do, to be honest. I might just give it the flick. So let's go. We'll just place this one down up the right way. Oh, I should have actually moved all the pages from underneath, but I'm going to press down quite firmly on it, and hopefully all the stamping area will come out where I've inked it. And I hope I've put this up the right way. I think I have. All right, so let's see. Okay, well, that's all right. Now, before I do the mask over it, because it's going to remain damp for a little while, I'm just going to put some embossing powder on, and I'll do the embossing part first. I'll just pop that there, just so I don't get embossing powder all over my desk and can't get it off. Yeah, this stamp range of Stampin' Up is pretty good. I've used them for many years, and I like doing the embossing over them because the ink is quite wet, and I think I've covered the whole stamp there. So we'll tip that off and have a look. Pop it into this paper here. I put this paper for a good reason, because I'm a messy girl. So you can see that's what it's going to look like, and I'm going to actually get the heat gun onto that, and I just want to see if I can get some more of that embossing powder off just by smacking it down a bit. I think that's probably all that's going to come off, so just get that out of the way. I'm likely to just mess it up. and get it all over my desk. So what I need to do now is just put my heat gun on this, and so that when I put the mask down, it's not going to stick to the mask. It'll only take, you know, maybe about 20 seconds, and I'm using my trusty Ozito that my husband bought me. I've just got it on. It takes a little bit of a while to heat up, but once it heats up, you'll see the colour will start to bubble a little bit. And get that back in the picture there. Just so that it's not wet, the stamp is not wet. When I thought to emboss it, I thought, I'll just have to do it step by mini step and just be more patient. So looks like it's starting to heat. And that's going to be there for the duration of this little journal. No getting rid of that stamp, even if I paint over it. The raised section, once the embossing powder heats, that'll actually come through any paint that I put on top of it. So I'll just persevere here and keep chattering away about very little and get that brown heated up, brown embossing powder. What's it called? Chestnut. And it's in the Zing range. You can pick that up at Spotlight or any places really that sell the embossing powders. They've usually got a good range of colour. I don't know if embossing's still the in thing. I don't particularly care about what the in thing is. I just like to do what I like to do, and you know, I'm all for folk art, girls. I love folk art, but you know, folk art has had a little bit of a death over the last 20 years. I haven't seen much of it around, but I think thinking to myself, what's a way that we can revive the folk art industry? Because there's so many wonderful artists out there who are really good at design and doing very beautiful folk art. So just let that cool down a bit so it's not still hot. And then I'm going to, while that's cooling, I might just ink up my stamp, which is this little baby here. I'll just ink that up and keep going on the next piece. Now what was I going to do? I was going to actually leave part of it off, so I better not ink that because I don't want it sort of, you know, being in the way. I think, yeah, I'm just looking to see which side is up and down. I don't think it really matters, but I could even put it up that way. I might go that way and make the rows down here more, so I might go that. All right, so I just need to only stamp where I need it. Only ink it up rather where I need it. Don't want the ink to go too far over out of the way. It's a great colour, that, particularly for journals, not the embossing so much, but the actual colour of the stamp pad. It's quite a good colour for, you know, just a very neutral colour in your journals. So what I'm going to do before I do that and blow it all together, I'm going to put my little mask over top. I think that's cooled down. Be awful if I melted the mask onto it because of the embossing powder. Well, stranger things have happened, I suppose, and you know, I could probably do something like that. Anyway, I think that's relatively a bit tricky because I keep moving it. All right, I think that'll do there. So I'm just going to lay my stamp down now, and mostly going to get this area, but I do want a little bit of branch work up there. So I might just make sure I've got enough ink on that. Right, I think I have. And if you've got a large stamping mat that you can hang on to so that you can pop your stamp on, like the one I put the words on, even better. I'm going to miss out a lot of this area here because of the mask. What I'm going to do, I'm just going to take that stamp off there, and I'm going to just mash down a little bit with this and push that design down over there. You have to be a little bit careful. As you could see last time, I moved it slightly and there was a little bit of a blur while I'm okay with things not being perfect, I like them to look at least a bit decent. Now, I think I've moved that a bit, but we'll see. I just want to stamp down here because I don't think I pressed here. Ultimately, I'm going to put the embossing powder on the stamp as well. I don't need to worry about that because I've got the mask there. All right. I don't know if I've got any ink on there. I might just put a little bit of ink on. I don't want to miss out on that rose. Not ideal. But anywho. Okay. I'm just going to hold that there. That's okay. Before I go any further, I'm just going to ink up a little bit more on this stamp, and I'm just going to add a few bits of leaves here and there, only because of this naughty bulge here. So I'm just going to pop a couple of bits of leaves here. You can see I'm just pressing down. I probably should have done this the first time round rather than trying to do it all at once. Lift that up, and I might put a little bit down here as well. Use the other side of it. A bit I missed out on before. Maybe just hold that there. Actually, I'll get my... I think I moved it, but just going to get this and stick that down on top. That way I can just flatten it down. Right, that will do nicely. I think I'm having a little bit more success at the moment, so we'll just have a little look. See, I'm going to put the brown over this as well. So, what I'll do, I'll put that brown back in the jar and start again. I'm going to use this paper that I'm using here for the brown. I want to do that in the next video, which I may put out tonight. To see how I go with this one. I don't want them to be too long. I've got some cool ideas coming up in the future where I've got my little Grandy, my beautiful little Stevie Rose, is going to be doing some painting for kids, and she's going to be, well, hopefully, I've asked her to, using some watercolour pencils and showing children how to use them to just make nice little flowers and things that kids can do. So if you've got any little kids that you think might be interested, I'm heading off to Perth next weekend. Not this weekend, Mother's Day weekend, but next weekend I'll be heading off over to Perth. And I've got Stevie and Ryder getting things designed at the moment, ready to have a bit of a play date art afternoon with Granny. This is what they call me. Gorgeous, I love it. And yes, I'm really looking forward to what they come up with. And so I'll be incorporating sometimes, not all the time, some of this stuff into my video, just so that, you know, if there's any kids that might be interested, it might be good fun for them to learn how to paint nice things, or use watercolor pencils or whatevs, but something that's going to be interesting for them. Oh, I like that. Oh la la, I do, I like it. Okay, so I'll just move this out of the way so I don't get it everywhere. I'll bring that back around so you can have a little stare at that for a minute. I put my powder back in my jar so I don't spill it all over my desk. I must have wasted so much of this stuff just by being silly and not organising myself better and spilling it. I'll just shut my stamp pad down. Yeah, so that was the soft suede. It doesn't really matter what colour you use. You can use a white colour. You know, they've got a white stamp pad, they've got black, they've got all different colours. I'm just using that colour background because of the dark tone. because I was going to use the brown. So I'm just going to whack this with the heat gun for a minute, so bear with me. Oh, that's a bit high. That's better. I'll emboss that, and then that's not going to move. I don't even think I'm going to put anything over that. I think I'm just going to leave it as it is once it's cooked. But the whole idea of this was to show you the masking effect that you can achieve with those that beautiful stamp range from IOD. I'm not sure whether all their stamps actually have the masks, but the Rose Toile one does, and this is the one that I'm using at the moment. And I do love it. I think it's have to be my favourite stamp. Probably going to put it on some furniture in the future. I've got a couple of little tables that I sourced a few years back, and I usually paint designs of women on my tables, but I might maybe put this stamp on the top of it, the whole stamp. It's absolutely stunning. Yeah, I highly recommend their products. I've had nothing but good success with them, apart from obviously the Vovo that I did earlier. But yeah, I think we've retrieved it and made it look nice. And I love the brown. I think the brown has really given it some good lift to that page. Obviously, if you're going to use stamps and you want to use paint, put the paint down first. Although you could probably put the embossing down and then paint very washy colour behind it, because the embossing won't lift no matter what. Unless you sand it off, I suppose, that would work. But who would like to do that? I wouldn't want to do that. It looks fantastic. Even though it's very scattery, I like it very much. I think that's pretty impressive from a bit of a disaster of a page earlier on. Let's get over here and get the rest of this done. I'm not going to speed it up because I think my talking might speed up. I'm not really good at editing my videos, but I try. So yeah, I hope this has been an interesting thing for you to watch. And I'm going to pop the other video up. I think I'll put that as a separate video. And I'll probably get that done tonight. So keep watching, and if you haven't subscribed already, please feel free to subscribe and give me a thumbs up if you think it's a pretty cool idea. Happy for comments, even the naughty ones. I do cope well with them. I don't prefer them, but I cope well with them. So yeah, and I really appreciated those of you who have been watching through this video series with me, and I'm sorry it's been so drawn out. As I mentioned earlier, I do have a full-time job as a registered nurse, and I do this in my spare time, believe it or not. And you're thinking, what spare time would you have? Well, my kids are grown up and playing the coop, so you know they're not at home to have needs to be looked after. So you know, I do this in my spare time as a way of just chilling out. Just love to create. I lie in bed at night and think about what can I make next, or what can I finish that I've started that I haven't finished. Sometimes it's artwork. Alright, very happy with the way that turned out. I think it's better than the disaster that went beforehand. There you go. So, put my trusty heat gun down. So what do you think? You think it's passable? I think it's an interesting looking page now. I think better than the white background with the black on it, even though I like black and white. I think this has worked out quite well, and that embossing is there. It's still a little bit sticky actually. I shouldn't have touched it, but yeah, so the stamp will dry. But yeah, if you don't have any Versamark or embossing stamp pads, these pads are very good because they will stay relatively damp for you to be able to get to your embossing if that's what you like to do. So yeah, just a pretty reasonably quick video this time. Lots of words in that, but yeah, so I'll catch up with you on the next one. And thanks again so much for watching. Bye for now.